This podcast was written and created by Avi Melamed, Middle East intelligence analyst and founder of the Inside the Middle East Institute.
I want you to imagine a government trying to execute this massive legal repossession.
Okay.
Like attempting to reclaim its own sovereignty from a heavily armed tenant who simply refuses to leave.
Yeah, it is an incredibly complex dynamic to untangle.
It really is. And that is exactly what the Lebanese state is attempting right now. So our mission today is unpacking Avi Melamed's assessment of the U.S.-mediated Israel-Lebanon agreement.
Right.
We want to examine whether this framework can actually restore the Lebanese state's monopoly on force and, well, effectively end the resistance paradigm.
And just for context, that paradigm is the 4-decade-old doctrine where armed factions operate outside state control, essentially under the guise of resisting Israel.
Exactly. Now, to follow Avi Melamed's analysis, he starts by looking at Lebanon's official position first. He notes that Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam views this deal not as a concession to Israel, but as the actual execution of the Taif Agreement and UN Resolution 1701.
Right. Those are essentially the historical blueprints meant to ensure that only the Lebanese state possesses weapons and authority within its borders.
So it really is like a massive legal reclamation project. They are trying to win back the exclusive right to decide questions of war and peace.
But naturally, because the Lebanese state seeks to detach itself from that resistance doctrine, this triggers some severe pushback from the armed factions operating within its borders.
Right. I mean, they are not just going to hand over the keys.
Exactly. And according to Avi Melamed, Hezbollah's Secretary General named Qassem has been very clear. Qassem calls linking any Israeli withdrawal to Hezbollah's disarmament an act of humiliation.
Wow.
Yeah, he actually stated that handing over their weapons crosses all red lines.
That is a very firm stance. But then, impartially contrasting that with Israel's position, they're coming at it from an entirely different angle, right?
Oh, completely. Avi Melamed points out that Israel is utilizing the agreement to prevent Hezbollah's military recovery. Their baseline is ensuring that security rests solely with the Lebanese state.
Okay, I understand the diplomatic framework there, but I really have to analytically question the mechanics of this.
How so?
Well, how does a weakened state practically enforce disarmament against a domestic faction that views the agreement as an existential threat? I mean, it seems almost impossible on the ground.
It is a massive hurdle, and that intense domestic standoff is exactly why Avi Melamed expands his focus to the broader geopolitical chessboard.
Okay, zoom me out.
Yeah. Discussing the regional stakes, Avi Melamed cites Palestinian analyst Saddam Sawil. Sawil argues that Lebanon is actually Iran's most valuable strategic asset.
Wait, really? Their most valuable?
That is the argument, and consequently, Arab states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE are backing the Lebanese government specifically to curb that Iranian regional influence.
Ah, so there are huge regional proxy dynamics at play here.
Yeah.
But going back to the text of the agreement, Avi Melamed outlines 3 principal challenges, right?
Yes, he does. First, there is the ambiguous wording regarding, quote, verified disarmament.
Right, because vague text always leaves dangerous loopholes.
Exactly. Second is the absolute necessity of Lebanese political resolve. Like, do they actually have the unified willpower to do this?
And third,
The requirement for sustained international support.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Without outside leverage, the Lebanese state really struggles to enforce its own laws. So given these structural challenges and the threat of domestic backlash, the immediate question becomes whether this tension will ignite a civil war.
It is the logical next fear.
Right.
But Avi Melamed presents a very measured assessment here. He concludes that a full-scale civil war is currently unlikely.
Okay, why is that?
A few reasons. Primarily, Hezbollah is weakened militarily right now. Also, the fall of the Assad regime removed their strategic depth.
Oh, right, there's supply lines in Syria.
Exactly. And finally, Iran wants to avoid a broader regional conflict at the moment. So instead of war, Avi Melamed suggests Hezbollah will likely rely on calibrated intimidation.
So just localized coercion, like street-level bullying to keep the government in check.
Pretty much, yeah.
That really leaves you with a final, somewhat provocative thought. I mean, consider how carefully negotiated diplomatic text must ultimately survive the harsh physical realities of localized coercion and street-level intimidation. It is easy to write a treaty, but enforcing it on a hostile street is another story entirely.
This brings us back to where we began. Sustainable stability requires 2 fundamental conditions: the restoration of state sovereignty and the neutralization of semi-state actors whose political and ideological agendas undermine the state's national interests. Lebanon offers one of the clearest case studies of this challenge. For the time being, however, the path toward restoring Lebanon's full sovereignty remains long and filled with obstacles.
This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. ITME is an independent, nonprofit institute committed to apolitical, intelligence-based Middle East education.
To learn more, or to support our work, visit our website www.insidethemiddle-east.com.